and he announced a grant also for supporting some of the problems of the local people here, so that the outcome of the research, which are already there in place, how we can percolate it to the village level. So there is a delivery mechanism already in place, and Department of Agriculture and Food Engineering, they have that idea. Perhaps just after my presentation, in there they may give you that how they have interfaced with the, some of the dissemination procedures they follow. So this is one of the unique ideas. Same we want to enlarge to other places also. And this pilot project is basically covering the all findings what we are going to achieve to this program. And coming to logistic portion again, very quickly I want to cover because time has been running short and many things to be discussed here. So just I want to mention that in logistics area, these are the different fields like procurement, storage, transportation, distribution and waste handling. And different objectives that we have conceived. Under the procurement is how the demand prediction. There are very sophisticated models are available, and we want to assure that model which can clearly, accurately, with lower errors, they can predict the demand. And then there are different kind of studies because this bill proposes there are 5 kg, 35 kg requirement for the different groups. So question is that how this packaging should start, because present way of packaging, that is when it acts with 50 kg, 100 kg and transporting that may not be optimal. So therefore we have to build up proper policy for the packaging. And based on this, the key deliverables that we are expecting in the logistic sector for the procurement is a good forecasting model, then identification of better procurement strategy and classification of because of varied packaging issues. And then transportation and storage. There the main issue is objective is adequate modernized storage facilities, then optimal transportation network. This is very interesting one because it requires rail road combinations, how much item you want to send through rail, how much you want to load, what is the total amount that we are doing by that, and then wastage that we are watching mainly because of inadequate facilities to the railway stations and other places. So question is that in what way we design our transportation network so that this we can save the cost also and we can avoid the wastage. So another is same thing, that how this ICT we can really apply to capture the wastage that is taking place, and very good software through which we can easily manage what is there in each and every district godowns, wheat or rice or any other meal that we are having. How we can exactly measure and know that at this place real-time management of the availability of the food is. If we can assure that the different ICT technology and software that we need to build up, they require RFID, they require barcoding, they require other sensory devices which are linked actually to ensure, because so this I also mentioned that this food will definitely requires, this act definitely requires the interface of different ICT mechanism. So what are those things? How some aspects of e-business can also be included to avoid the middleman. There are many things that we cover through the application of ICT. Now we are coming to the total packages that we are handling under this. One is so demand procurement packages, then storage and transportation requirements, then stock management and replenishment policy. This is very interesting one because some of our professors, they have built a very good cooperative, non-cooperative models actually for storage and replenishment. And then ICT applications certainly is going to be one. And then there is a very interesting link between all the decision type of models at a strategic, tactical or personal level by multi-model tools. With this, the logistic portion more, I think Professor Vishwanathan doing his political expert address, he will talk about that, and other my other friend will discuss it. So this is the logistic and total integration that we wanted to project through this proposal. Now my colleague and one of the other coordinator for the agriculture side is will come and suggest that.
regarding the two thematic areas of research, food grain production, post-harvest processing and storage. So, this department is the agricultural and food engineering department. So in this, I want to explain, so there is food production and post-harvest processing and storage. So two major issues, one is village adoption, research and innovation. So what I want now, so the technology we have, rural technology, we want to transport to villages. For the purpose is to increase the food and productivity as Punjab Singh has explained all the important issues of this food production. And also same time, for the post-harvest processing and storage, to reduce the losses of water losses. With that also we have the parallel research and innovation. So regarding food and productions, as per the village level adoptions, one is mechanization starting from land preparations up to harvest, all the mechanization operation to be transferred to the farmers' fields, and water management, irrigation systems management, groundwater recharge, and also water conservation, one of the most important issues for the agricultural area where we can store water for the livestock irrigation of the current crop and also irrigation, some irrigation of the next crops. And one is nutrient management, one is need based. Usually farmers will apply nutrient as a blanket recommendation or general recommendation. We need to go for soil testing, soil test, crop response, best approach of the nutrient management, and also integrated nutrient management. We have to go for the biological management, organic farming, green management to maintain the soil health for the future. And the other is the most pertinent climate change adaptation. So either you go for the crops and cultivar selections for the location specific for the land situations, and the production practices they may change with the changing climates as you see the last announcement from IPCC. The rainy season in case of the India is going to be full. So accordingly we have to look for the crops we can suitable for the climate change scenarios, and also we should have the weather based advisory services for agriculture. And for the post-harvest processing, similarly you have the processing structures, grain processing and storage on site, on farm. As you say, if you have those processing facilities, then there is no need of procurement of the grains from the far distance. So locally you can meet the requirement of the farmers, of the village levels, of the crop levels. Similarly, modernized grain systems, efficient management of systems, and go for the stored food grain quality to know the quality control systems of the food grains, and also how can assessment of the quality of the food grains. So in this village adoption, you go for research and innovations for food grain productions on work packages, precision agriculture, and sustainable technologies for enhancing food grain production. So in this, we have 3 work programs. Program 1, mechanization in food grain production, and program 2, water and nutrient management, and program 3, climate change adaptation and mitigation. To come to program 1, mechanization in food grain production. So our objective is to develop sensor-based technologies for seed nutrients and also fertilizer application, and also development of harvesting machines and pest management tools. So in this regard, our department is working in collaboration with also CI Bhopal, where developing the variable rate fertilizer applicator, and of course the pesticide herbicide applicators for precision food management. And for this, our deliverables skill building to the farmers with regard to machine use, and the machines suitable for the farmer's field of different land holdings, and precision nutrient and pest management. So the package 1, the package 2, water and nutrient management. Our objective is development of technologies for enhanced water efficiency, and real-time irrigation and nutrient management. Third is application nanomaterials fertilizer production improvement. In this regard, so we have one example I can say in our department. So what we have seen the saving of irrigation water, the rice seed, we are trying drip in rice where you can save the 70% of irrigation water in wet seeds, and with 15% yield penalty. And of course, we are also now developed an excellent facility for real-time irrigation management where you can monitor the farmers' base, and accordingly you can go for irrigation systems. In nanomaterial also, now we have seen an experiment nanopacking fertilizers. The amount of yield you can get from 30 kg phosphorus per hectare, same or equivalent, same yield you can get from less than 100 gram nanophosphorus per hectare. So by this we can minimize the storage and transport of the fertilizer. So okay. So that is the technologies for increasing water efficiency, ICT based real time irrigation nutrient management, and nanomaterial based fertilizer packages are the deliverables. So come to third factor, that is climate change adaptations and mitigations. For this we have objectives, analysis and understanding of climate change impacts on soil health, water demand and food grain production, identification of climate resilient cultivars, crops and development of agro-adaptation mitigations. So I say agro-adaptation mitigations, we need to adapt to climate change. At the same time, we should think of the mitigations because the agriculture itself, they also release greenhouse gases that contribute climate change, and the contributes agriculture sectors alone is around 30%. Regarding crops and cultivar selection, from our experience, what we have seen here, some cultivars they are responsive to climate change, yield increases, and some cultivars their yield declines. So accordingly, you have to select the cultivars which can be selected for production strategy and for climate change scenarios. And these deliverables for this, the cultivars of rising temperature environment, and the other adaptations for water and nutrient management, and the production, entire production system might be changed for climate change because it's for the directed rise and transplanted. If you go for in case of the rainfall variability or the drought stress, if you go for directed rise, it can survive the drought stress but not transplanted rise. Like you can look for the system so you can adapt to climate change scenarios. And for this, for all this approach, we have to go for the basic information. We have to gather basic information on production on the local area. Then we have the target production, what is target production, and bridge the gap with research and innovations, how we can make research to meet the production demand. And for this post-harvest processing and storage, so we have the work package with the processing and storage technology to minimize post-harvest losses of food grains. For this, the two work programs, program 1, grain processing and storage, and program 2, the stored food grain quality. So for program 1, grain processing and storage, to develop processing and storage technology from the different levels, starting from farm level to national level. So we can meet the requirement of the food distribution at each and every levels. And similarly, to minimize storage loss by technology operations and setting up tertiary processing centers for ready-to-eat meals for processing and packaging. The deliverables for this, upgraded on farm processing technology and efficient storage structure from farm to national levels and RT practices. This is the package 1. Package 2, stored food grain quality assessment. For this objective, development of food grain quality control systems and methodologies, rapid method for quality assessment and quality and safety assessment of food grains, and 3, efficient handling system for online trackings with modern techniques and methods. And for this, so our department is working on this area or this area for this the deliverable capacity building of farmers, entrepreneurs, and stakeholders, and rapid grain quality assessment methods, and third one is efficient handling systems. So these are the research and the village adoption from our department side, and so in the departments, the institutes, there are collaborative partners and also helping partners in other departments. Thank you.
Let me just briefly go through these biotechnological solutions to sustain National Food Security Act. As Professor Singh has already clued up that we need to develop the diversified crop in right place and the right time, because India has a diversified climates and the soils and so on. So here I am just going to just give you an outline of the biotechnological module, but this module can be changed according to specific programs. As for all of you know that the primary goal of the National Food Security Act is the adequate quantity of quality food at the affordable price to the beneficiaries, and for that we need to develop the food for proper energy, better nutrition and appropriate health care. We have identified the 4 levels where biotechnology can take part. Is the yield improvement of the crop, nutritional quality of the plant products, storage and transport, as well as process and the packaged food, along with the preservative and the supplement for the safe and extended shelf life with the nutritionally enriched food. So we need to develop the short-term and the long-term program, and biotechnology can play in all these areas, all the levels of all these programs. At this point of time, we have focused on the 4 sub-projects: functional genomics of rice crop for improvement of grain yield and product quality, metabolomics for developing biomarkers as a tool to evaluate superior phenotypes of cereal cultivars, and food security by developing low-cost nutraceuticals from rice, wheat and coarse grain. And the other area is related to the the post-harvest technology in these stored situations, whereas we are going to developing sensitive diagnostic kit for detection of pathogen in the stored food. Again, I just want to mention that we have several collaborators from not only from biotechnology, from agriculture, and also from outside people. And we need to develop a robust multidisciplinary project involving all the departments of the centers of IIT Kharagpur along with the other research collaborators. Let me just quickly go through the 4 projects what we have proposed at this point of time. In the functional genomics area, we all know that rice genome sequence information is available, and we have a strong bioinformatics groups. So what we want to do is this: we want to predict the gene involved in grain yield and product quality. And when I say these predict genes, the genes are in relation to the grain yield as well as the nutrition. And want to verify these kind of predictions by several sets of experimental procedures like expression profiling and microarray analysis, allele mining from wild type and cultivated accessions, and also the transgenic technology to create loss of function and gain of function, so that we verify which genes is directly related to the which type of agronomically important trait. And doing so, we will identify sets of candidate genes, and these can be used in 2 ways. One can be developed as a non-transgenic group at the left side, and the other is the transgenic group, where we can develop the genetically modified cultivars in the already existing cultivars. And the left panel is that to just give you the molecular markers as a tool to the breeder, so that breeder can usually quickly go into a screening procedures. The other area is the metabolomics, where again we want to develop at the biomolecules as the biomolecule markers for the agronomically important traits. So here in the you can see that we have we need to have a sophisticated network of analytical instruments, where you can analyze all the phenotypes as well as we can find out the signature metabolites which are involved in the particular trait we are talking. And this will help the breeder to develop a diagnostic assay, so that we can quickly monitor what kind of phenotypes we want and what is the metabolites involved in that particular plant. The other area is that this developing a low-cost nutraceuticals from rice, wheat, and coarse grain, and this can reduce the dietary intake of the consumers. And here we want to develop we have the coarse grains of different kinds, rice grains, coarse grains, and wheat grains, and we want to develop the biotechnological processing for a preferred carbohydrate which will allow the prebiotic to grow. Prebiotic meaning the type of nutritions it is there, and so that the prebiotic is the type of nutrition we are talking, and the probiotic is the bacteria which are involved in our gut nutrition. So we will try to develop the fortified prebiotic for the growth of the microorganisms which is prevailing in our gut. And this will involve the nutritional analysis, pilot testing in local hospitals, municipality, medical colleges, and this will involve also nutritional expert and toxicologists from outside this IIT campus. And then this will lead to the per capita consumptions can be reduced, and the dietary carbohydrate based generally increase may be improved. Gut microbiota will have a better management capacity, reducing 40% of the wastage of carbohydrates. And we can also use the metabolic engineering approach to change the type of grains we are talking about. And the other area will be collaborating with this quality control at the store grade with the agricultural sites. And this will have the developing the diagnostic kits for the detection of pathogen in the store gates. And we will use these different kind of biochemicals, immunologicals, and recombinant DNA technology to design different kind of diagnostic kits, so that the pathogen and the toxin can be identified easily. And using that, we can separate the affected materials in the stored conditions, so that the good ones can be used in the delivery systems. And we will have not only the IIT Kharagpur, but we will have the National Institute of Nutrition faculty will be involved, and Vidhanchal Vishwavidyalaya Central Rice Research Institute, and also we have tagged with some of the seed companies and many other IITs that we have already focused that they will take partner of this the program. Thank you.
We all agree, we take a short break and have a cup of tea. And during that break, people can discuss whatever they had, and we come back in 10 minutes and then continue. I think people are getting a little restless, so a cup of tea and coming back would be nice. Yes. So then we'll again concentrate on the the thoughts of the experts.
And moved to Dapoli as a vice chancellor more than 2.5 terms. I think retired as a vice chancellor from Dapoli. And he had been a member of several committees, 18, 19 committees constituted by ICAR. And he has a member of accreditation board of ICAR and chairman of RAC. And then also he had been to several countries to China where Sharad Pawar was his leader. In fact, he belongs to the same constituency, therefore Sardar Pawar of Sukkur. So I now welcome him to give his keynote address. And I like to use second speaker also, Professor P. Chandra. He is a graduate of Pantnagar and then he is PhD from Cornell University. And he was the ADG of ICAR and finally moved to Bhopal as a director of Central Institute of Electrical Engineers. Very important institute and well known. I think it will be Dean University for him, Dean University. And he is working in the area of mainly energy and then agroforestry, agroprocessing, and also he is a recipient of Rafi Ahmed Kirti Award. It's very prestigious award to all the scientists. And now just Shamala to deliver his talk.
Honorable Chief Guest of this function, seminar, something else. Another special guest, the Ministry of Human Resources, HRD, Madam Chamaji, Honorable Director Chakraborty, distinguished scientists, most brilliant institutes and brilliant people of this country, from every corner of the country, for this ambitious mission goal project or National Code Security Act. At the outset, I take this opportunity to appreciate IIT as well as the Government of India for organizing brainstorming session of brilliant people. You have heard coordinators and other speakers, particularly Mr. Punjab Singh. He was our guru. Has given a complete account of food situation in India. What is happening? More than the secretary, we respect him as a DG, Director General ICAR, who was our leader. And he has given a critical thing to the nation. I will not take this time. I will come to the state inquiry. But one thing, let me submit to the House, particularly. The coordinators and all people there got a beautiful picture. This was a picture of production, procurement, processing, post-harvest technology, storage, as well as the value addition, including marketing and whatnot. Punjab Singh has given a very good excellent data. I will also summarize, but I will restrict myself. I consider myself always restricting with the SWOT analysis. So everybody is proud of state, and always we neglect our weaknesses, and that creates the threats as well as the opportunity. That's the main reason. So let us concentrate on SWOT analysis is the limitations. Opportunity will subsequently come. So in my presentation will be restricted to only the production, agriculture production. Something he will speak on, and it's a constraint, time constraint, we cannot go so much. So before we go for it, let us consider what is the food security. In fact, always I take food insecurity. What are the concepts of food insecurity? Once we understand food insecurity, so food security concept is very, it's availability and entitlement. availability with us, entitled with the society, with the poor people, with the common people. Then when I say insecurity, now this it's in two types. One is the chronic, long term, like in African countries, years together, decades together. Second is the transitory. There are so many occasions are coming at a particular region, at a particular part, and there is a shortage, temporary shortage, and that is a transitory. But in this case particularly, if you consider the present rate of globalization, privatization, and liberalizations, and see our state, we have present population 122 crores, likely to be 150 crores in 2050, and probably that kind of food requirement will be about, of course, the different figures. Somebody says 300 million tons, somebody says 340 million tons, but at least we may require, Professor has already given account, we may require minimum 300 million tons food grain in this case. But today, self-sufficiency, yes. What we speak about the sufficiency, it is export. Say we are number 1 in rice export, we are number 2 in wheat export. Our major concern rice and wheat. These are the two major concerns. Today, we are in a comfortable position, but at the rate of the population growth rate at the rate of 1.98, just 2%, probably we may face a problem. And as we said, food grain costs, we have 120 million. And the things are, what is happening? What are the, say, one thing is very clear. India, our country, is the richest country as far as natural resources are concerned next to Brazil. We are very rich people. I don't know. When we go out, people ask me, why your status is a developing country? In fact, you should have been a developed country because you are the richest people in the world. So, what is happening? Land or the soil, street, water, of course it's a natural, it's a fluctuating. Climate is changing, global warming. And one more thing is particularly the greenhouse effect. Carbon dioxide level, which is supposed to be 300, it has gone up to 389 ppm, which is good to say. Then nitrous oxides and methane and other things are there, we are not present. So our major concern of the food is, so we have to think of precision farming, quality farming, vertical farming, not horizontal farming. It is not science is vertical farming. And this is the approach. This is integrated plant nutrient supply. I always insist to the people that in case of a fertilizer application, any chemical application, but in fertilizer applications, let us eliminate the word broadcasting. Forget about broadcasting. Nobody should use the food. It is only the pesticide. I will give the status of fertilizer, but fertilizer efficiency is very low. It can be. It is a scientific evidence that the fertilizer efficiency of nitrogen also can go up to 80%. Today, it is 80% loss. I am making a bold statement in front of my farmer decision, no doubt, but this is the things. Now, see the another input, that is water. I am giving a broad picture. In 1951, the water availability per person in India, of course the population was less that time, but it was 6,000 meter cube per person per year. It has gone up to 1,700 as of today, and likely to be 1,000. And I say the critical limit is 1,000 meter cube per year. And scientists say that probably desertification process may start if it goes below 1,000 meter cube per person. That's it. Now, where we stand, where India stands, I say, as country, as I am speaking. See the things, particularly, if you see the pictures, that is Egypt, it can go up to 9 tons for rice, it can go up to 9 tons per hectare. See the USA, China, and India, of course I have not given, but the correct recent figure is 3.24 tons per hectare productivity. This is concerned with the productivity of barley and wheat, and you see in both cases, still we have a scope. I think earlier Director General of ICR has announced a program of doubling the productivity of wheat and barley. If it is so, we have to do it, there is no alternative. And see the today's figure, rice production 11, 12,
110 million tons. Wheat production 9 million tons. This alone, both of them can contribute to the 200 million tons, let's say, in this case. Only the great scope of the production as well as the productivity. Now, similarly, I was insisting for the fertilizer consumption. That means one of the major inputs next to water. Water is first. After water, now there is a full awareness, 100% full awareness. There is full awareness for the use of now. You will be surprised. In 1980, country was just a drip irrigation. It was an experimental evidence in 1980. Today, country has gotten a alarming increase of drip irrigation area to 30 lakh. Alone half is 9 lakh hectares of area under drip irrigation, particularly horticulture crops. But now it has come up so that not for wheat and not for rice, but for other crops it has come. So there is a full awareness of water management. It's a question of only issues. But here we see the protein production as well as then the NPK fertilizers. People are criticizing, environmentalists they are criticizing that there is a water pollution, soil nutrition, water pollution. But if you do the fertilizer to the Christian, in a Christian manner, probably see the Japan is not 30, it's 300. Japan 300 kilograms per hectare per year. That is next to China 54. Another South Korea, even Bangladesh and Pakistan, they are having more figures than ours, 110 kilograms per hectare. That means, and it is because of only one thing, that's the rainfall. Country has hardly 40% of irrigation facilities, mostly the northeast, Punjab and Haryana, Punjab, North UP and other parts, Bihar parts. But remaining part, 60% of it is rendered naturally in the fertilizer district. But there is a scope. If you go to the district, probably we can restrict the soil nutrition as well as the what we call a groundwater pollution. Then now this is the deliberate slide. In fact, I was tempted to put this slide after the Green Revolution. In the Green Revolution, the food production growth, it was exponential. Well, subsequently, when all resources were stabilized, naturally the growth rate is restricted. It can't be exponential all the time. It was linear. But sometimes it was declined. And the situation has now much more changed. But it may occur, probably in case of food security, substantial food security. I appreciate the word substantial. It's not only food security. Food security today we are so far. That's not a question. But in case of sustainable food security, after 10 years, after 20 years, probably we will have this problem. So see the past, where the things we committed in the wrong manner, wrong way, and what we are supposed to avoid. That's what I should do. But now the trends are changing. Now coming to this is particularly in case of fertilizer consumption. Soil fertility is there. But in case of fertilizer, see 51, nothing was there. Then today what is the situation? 2001, probably there were 17 million tons. I have given split of nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, potassium, etc. And here see, that is the main concern. Our production, our country production is a whole production. I don't know why we are lacking. Still, it's a natural resource, but the potassium fertilizers is totally 99% import. That's the thing, potassium fertilizer. So, what is the solution for that? In case of a sustainable security, the solution is the last is the organic resources. Still in Punjab, in Maharashtra, in many places, the plant residues are being burned in time. Huge organic, huge plant residues are being burned. Let us, this is the organic resources of 873 billions, and through the organic resources, we can achieve 16 billion tons of this nutrients. That's after the figures, they will think somewhere there. But anyway, and another part is the micronutrient. Micronutrient availability is hardly, this is 1.2 lakh. Present use is, the requirement is quite, use is quite good. We are using NPK, we have forgotten secondary and micronutrients. Unless and until we have integrated approach of nature, secondary and micronutrient, we won't be able to stabilize our productivity. See the things, again, fertility is alright, but at what cost, at what rate? It is not at all balanced. NPK ratio is supposed to be 4:2:1. Today, it's 9:4:1. And the thing, sometimes in some places, this nitrogen has got 11, 12, 16. But if there are yellow plants, put the nitrogen. They are giving immediate results. And again, broadcasting with waste efficiency etc. And in case of fertilizer, I think I visit IIT and this Mission Board project for sustainable, you have to go with the precision farming. Precision farming is soil to soils, region to region, and the cropping pattern. And one more thing, it's not an NPK imbalance ratio. At the same time, it is N and P2O ratio, P2O5. This nitrogen and phosphorus ratio, it should not be more than, it should be less than 3.5. I think in a project, these small things have to be considered. Now, why is it decline in productivity? Why is it say these are things? Particularly, it's depletion of soil organic matter. We call it OC, organic matter. This is not 8%. This is not a science, something typing mistake. It is SOM, soil organic matter. Most of the soils, 80% of soils, they are having the organic carbon less than 1%. I think we require, as an agriculturist, the scientist, we prefer the farmer must maintain their organic matter, organic carbon level in their soil, cultivated soil, more than 1%. But 80%, this is the status. How do we expect a productivity of 9 tons like Egypt, 6 tons like China? Yeah. So this should be able to maintain. And the other part is the continuous nitrogen utilization. I will not explain it. Without the absence of phosphorus. And another part is the deficiency, sulfur and zinc deficiency in a country. I think there was a national report I have gone through it. You would surprise 40% soils are deficient of zinc. That's the thing. Zinc and phosphorus, sulfur, that in the project, these are the small things to be did. Otherwise, it will affect the productivity. This another term, I think, Professor Punjab must have, he is the, I think, basic innovator of this term, total factor productivity. We consider one crop. Let us part, he has indicated about integrated farming system. At the same time, we see in a piece of a land, see the soil quality, maintain the soil quality, maintain the soil fertility, and see how much is rabi, how much is kharif, how much is summer, and see the total factor productivity and how much is the yield. In Punjab, feed paddy wheat rotation gives 17-18 tons per hectare. Bihar, UP, Gangetic Belt, maintain the total factor productivity to the extent of 15 to 17 tons per hectare. Can we not repeat it? What are the shortcomings that we will find out? And I have already indicated that the decline of solid organic matter and what is the extent of what is it. Now, this I put it, no, sorry. I am coming to the last point. Some of the policy issues, I am coming to the policy issues. It has been already spoken by all other speakers, I will not take much time. What are the policy, say, decisions? That's in case of increased productivity, sustainability, and marketing in agriculture. There's conservation, rehabilitations, and declaration of conservation of restoration of land, then land use planning. In case of a productivity, we have to consider. Then increasing efficiency, fertilizer efficiency, water efficiency, and the use of untapped resources, maybe solar resources or other resources. That whatever we want to do, in fact, for the say it should be exported. No doubt, this is food security. We have to meet a demand of all people, but at the same time, let us not forget the international market. Now, in case of green revolution technology, now the second green revolution or the green revolution and green revolution technology. This high-tech varieties, biotechnology innovations, and then the fertilizer integrated with management, organic matter, irrigation water, surface irrigation with high efficiency, sprinkler irrigation, micro irrigations, and these are some of the features of these things. Now, approaches, what should be our? Let us maintain our soil health to the topmost part. So this is what are the means and parameters of individual productivity. The first is soil health. That which relates to the soil structure, nutrition, water holding capacity, all the things. Then this, in case of rice, this is SRI, Systematic Rice Identification Program, has given an average rate of 6 tons per hectare, more than that. But more than that is SRR. The seed replacement ratio. I have gone through a report prepared by Dr. Mudala in Bihar, and it was taken as a Bihar currently last year, the seed replacement ratio was to the extent of 34%, sir. 34% was beyond imagination. No, we will achieve, particularly for the wheat and the rice. They have a strong view about the roadmap. So, like our seed replacement doesn't exceed more than 20%. That's the major problem. That's the integrated plan management that I already indicated. Then there's one more area, IPM. It suffers the hot for integrated pest management, disease management. Again, it's a question whether to go with the this bio control, other things, environmental pollution, other so many things. And the last point is the PhD I will give it to Pritam. Then there's one more thing. In maintaining the consistency of the crop productivity, go for a cropping pattern. We should have legumes are to be introduced in the cropping pattern. If we don't produce, we will not be able to produce fertility and crop rotation in the sense. And the last part is what we call as the soil quality parameters. Soil quality, another very, very important term. I hope that if you ask me, I will give you a plan for soil quality. How to do the plan for soil quality? So this is not I want to pursue, but I can say as an agriculture scientist, I can say confidently, on 100% that food security mission, food security act, National Food Security, as a successful point, as a success for a nation, probably to have to use the word sustainable and agriculture. Of course, other parameters are there, as the post-harvest losses, processing and degradation, small or yield export, all the things are there. But it should not be in near future. Probably the government has to think, central government has to think not only the food security, but government has to think the national nutrition security covering each and every person to the extent of 2,400 calories. Not only rice, not only wheat, not only food grains, but at the same time you have to think for the milk, vegetables, fruits, meat, eggs, everything. So the next step will have to be, if our country can achieve this food security mission in a successful manner after 5 years probably, definitely we will be able to do nutrition security. lastly, I express a deep sense of gratitude to my alma mater and huge thanks to director and all distinguished scientists for giving me opportunities. Thank you.
Dr. Chief Guest, Professor Punjab Singh said, and whatever comments Dr. Mother has given about production agriculture, I will continue the value chain. In fact, when we talk of production to consumption value chain, Dr. Mother has covered the first part of the value chain, that is the production. What I am covering is the second part, that is the post-harvest processing, value addition, including the storage. But still the third part, that is the consumption part. And I think one of the speakers in the morning talked about it, but I think there's much more effort are needed in that direction as well. Before I start talking about this, just some cold figures. Recently, FAO has come out with a report on post-harvest losses. And it says that the whole world is losing 185 kilograms per person per year. It's a colossal loss. And it amounts to some $30 billion per annum. And somebody can do a quick mathematics to see that this is a really huge amount of loss. Food includes cereals, pulses, the fruits, vegetables, egg and meat. So another thing is that I would firmly believe that whosoever we bring to this world, that person is entitled to live and to good food. Therefore, the food security bill is, in a sense, a step in that direction, assuring food to everyone. This slide only shows that what goes on in the food production to consumption chain. Farmer is at the apex of the chain, and then some of the food that he produces is consumed by him and his family. The remaining goes into the processing and marketing, where a lot of processing operations go. And in this process, as the Punjab Singh also indicated, some losses take place, and these losses today amount to almost 60,000 crores per annum. Next is main control. So let me now come to the present scenario. As you all agree, we are producing enough, but the accessibility is the problem. The inclusivity is a problem. And we need to bring in the management and technology to take care of these two things, inclusivity as well as accessibility. They are good, not that we cannot achieve it. 25% of the people or 30% of the people don't have access because they don't have the income to afford the food, and that's why it's a problem. And so we increase the livelihood opportunities, that situation will be taken care of. High post-harvest losses, and that I would like to present before you some of the results that recently ICR has come up with. Inadequate livelihood opportunities in the production catchments, and over the year, 40% of the people, in fact more than that, today are not willing to farm because of the uncertainties, because of the low income, and because of better opportunities elsewhere, which is going to happen, which is happening more and more. And so the food insecurity is really setting in terms of who is going to produce food. People are not going to eat there. High level of women and child malnutrition, unfortunate part. In fact, the report has come recently from Dr. Ramesh Chand, the National Center for Agricultural Policy, and it says that income and malnutrition both are not related. You may be earning enough, but still be malnourished. And so this is a very different kind of paradigm which we have to keep in mind. Mismatch between agricultural exports and agri imports. Here what I want to say is that on the one hand we are exporting some of the semi-processed materials like soybean, oil cake, which has 50% protein. On the other hand, we are importing pulses to the tune of 2 to 3 million tons. Of course, this year we expect a better harvest of pulses, but there is a paradox. On one hand, we are exporting good quality protein, on the other hand, we are importing protein at a very high cost. Huge quantities of underutilized crop residues, and in fact, mention was made that 870 million tons of crop residues are available, which are burned or underutilized or not utilized at all. So we need to add value to that biomass as well. Low level of agro processing and valuation. I'll come to these figures as well. And acute shortage of trained scientific and academic manpower. And this is where educational institutions like IITs and other SAUs become very important. Now I come to the concept of agro-processing in production catchment. In fact, what has been happening, the food industries have been carried or have been carried that farmers need to only produce, we'll take care of the processing. This never took place. And unfortunately, farmers kept on losing income and produce because the infrastructure in the villages, in the production catchment is not there, and there is no skill or processing technology in the production catchment. So I think we have to start right there. As soon as we produce, we should start handling the biomass, which includes the residues as well as the main produce, and start valuation right there. Otherwise, till it reaches the industry in the urban sector, some qualitative and quantitative losses are already taking place, and we can't reverse those losses. And therefore, processing in production catchments is the key to reducing the post-harvest losses and encouraging better financial realization from the producer. Therefore, the post-harvest technology on the whole seeks to reduce the post-harvest losses. It seeks to enhance crop and employment generation in farm and rural sectors, to make high-quality raw material available to agro-processing industries in the production catchments as well as in the urban areas, to make food accessible to all by creating more income and to ensure environmental sustainability. I was talking about the harvesting post-harvest losses. Just 3 years back, we put out a report on the study that has been conducted nationwide. And this was done after repeated admonition by the Parliamentary Committee on Agriculture that you keep saying that nobody has measured the post-harvest losses. How much is the post-harvest loss? Can you find out? Make an effort. And therefore, this effort was made, and we already appointed research project on post-harvest technology, food centers throughout the country, conducted this study, and the data which are there in the report relate to 2005-06 to 2006-07 period. It's already more than 5 years old, and that's why the Ministry of Food Processing Industry has again reconstituted this study, which is going on. Now we, in this study, took there are 15 agroclimatic zones in the country, so it referred to 14 out of those 15, and compared with 20% of the rural districts of the country, numbering 106, 46 crops and commodities, data for harvesting post-harvest losses were collected for one full cycle, so it was quite comprehensive and very scientific. The conducted survey was taken up, and the estimated losses Cereals 3.9 to 6%, pulses 4.3 to 6.1%, oil seeds, fruits and vegetables 5.8 to 18%, depending upon which fruit we are talking about, and livestock produce 0.6 to 6.9%. Again, in case of milk it is low, but in case of meat and fish it is slightly high. And definitely tells us that there is a need to reduce the post-harvest losses on farm and the supply chain. Now, some of these losses which are indicated take place on the farm while we are harvesting the crop and then subsequently in the handling. The other observations out of this study are that there are high post-harvest losses on farm and in supply chain linking farmer to market. And that's what is our concern, because we want to increase the income of the farmers. In 2005-06 prices if we take, this amount was 28,000 crores and at present prices it is 60,000 crores. The study indicated that there had been some reduction in the post-harvest losses as compared to the value reported earlier. Normally people have been telling that we lose 25-30% of our produce. Now, I don't discount that figure either, because that will be considering the entire value chain. Now here we are represented only the harvest and post-harvest till it reaches the market. We have not talked about the losses which happen beyond market, which are also substantial. For cereals, pulses and oilseeds, the losses in the farm operations constitute about 2/3 of the total losses. This is important because that's where we can make a material difference. So the general approach for post-harvest and storage, I feel, is that build upon the existing R&D output and results and take it to the stakeholders for ultimate utilization. Further strengthening the R&D program, and I will come to a few slides indicating the prospective areas. Take them to the stakeholders in a mission mode, and I am really glad that IIT has taken this initiative, because when engineering comes to agriculture, it makes all the difference. In fact, engineering and management together with agriculture will make all the difference. Develop appropriate human resource, assess the impact, and I think the program that we witnessed in the morning do reflect all these points. The level of agro-processing in India, the question is asked very frequently. So what is the level? And we say it is only 2% in case of fruits and vegetables, which is correct. But when we talk about all the commodities, the picture is a little different. The level of agro-processing of full agriculture produce, which includes paddy, wheat, tea, coffee, everything, that is about 45%. Level of processing of perishable produce is about 6%, which includes fruits, vegetables, milk, meat, fish, eggs. The extent of value addition in agricultural produce is about 20%. Now this is low. The report from the United Nations says that on the whole in the world, the value addition is about $100 per ton of agricultural produce, which is far less here. In some of the developed countries, the value addition is to the extent of $180 per ton. Now, if you take the price of wheat internationally, it's about $300 to $400 per ton. So, you can imagine the extent of value addition there. Processing of agricultural produces around 40% in China, 30% in Thailand, 70% in Brazil, 78% in Philippines, and 80% in Malaysia. These figures often keep appearing in newspapers, and therefore it is important to put our figures in the perspective of all the other countries. Level of secondary processing in fruits and vegetables, again in India it is very less, as you can see. Now another thing which comes up from our study is the safety and quality of products. processed and organized sectors are dependent on the quality of the primarily produced. This goes from the agricultural production catchment. And therefore, adequate post-harvest management and value addition in production catchments are essential for the safety and quality of final product. In processing, you cannot raise the quality once it has gone down. And therefore, it's important to retain the quality right in the production catchments through need-based processing in the production catchments. So the research and activity on agro-produce processing, the framework that I foresee is that we must have database on agro-produce characteristics and interactions with biotic and abiotic factors, and design of various storage systems. Someone may say that we already have these designs available from the developed countries, but they need to be customized for our communities and our environmental conditions. Operational management of storage systems, again with the availability of ICT and sensor technologies, we need to rework and come up with latest solutions on that. We don't have that. Interface of renewable energy systems and storage systems, because we want to reduce the energy intensity of our technologies, and therefore the renewable energy options need to be integrated. Active smart storage systems. Systems where we can keep monitoring on real-time basis the quality of the product stored. And this again requires a lot of engineering and ICT. HRM storage technology. At present, unfortunately, all the rail storage programs in the country are either non-functional or totally absent. So we need to revitalize those programs. Research to build the critical R&D gaps. And here, I would say that the list is not comprehensive, but some of these points which are indicated are given here. In fact, I felt a little embarrassed when the framework was shown in the morning when only biotechnology was projected. I think there are many more frontier technologies which we need to reflect. And if IIT doesn't do it, who would do it? Research in emerging areas of agro-produce processing, this can be again enhanced. Human resource development, again, these are the areas where we really need critical human